Well, there really is just one place to start today, and it's at Anfield, and one of the biggest fixtures of any season between Liverpool and Manchester United. This year, though, it's first v second, and the 3 points could be absolutely crucial.
So much in common, yet worlds apart. A relationship forged in the obsession for superiority.
Two most successful clubs in the history of English football.
The never-ending tug of war. The generational power struggle. Eras defined by dominance. Title winning, toing and froing. Led by the most influential figureheads.
England's champion club for a 20th time.
But domination doesn't last forever. Power shifts. Again.
Oh, it's going to be fascinating, isn't it, on Sunday? One of the biggest rivalries in football, and the first time in over 24 years that Liverpool and Man United face each other as the top two. Let's hear from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer ahead of this one.
When you look at European football or English football, even the last few years, the City and Liverpool, they've really done well, and they've been miles ahead of the rest of the bunch. And of course, that's always the test. You have to catch them up at some point to have a chance of winning the league, and this is a very, very good test for us. You've got to dream big, and you've got to believe in yourself. So fans are allowed, but the players as well. We believe that we're getting better, improving. That doesn't mean that we start thinking about where we'll end up in the league at the moment, but we are in a good moment.
Well, he says you've got to dream big, and who would have thought that Manchester United would be top of the table heading into this clash, considering they were 15th in the league back as soon as November, which was only a couple of months ago, Glenn. What a tie this is shaping up to be. Do you remember the last time it was harder to pick a winner in this fixture?
Not for many years, yeah, because Liverpool have been dominant, haven't they? They are at home. Anfield is like the old fortress, and they've made it even more of a fortress than back in the 80s team. So I'm expecting a Liverpool win. I think they'll up their performances of late, because that's what they're capable of doing. In some ways, you know, I'm quite surprised that both these teams are first and second at this moment in time. Liverpool, with all the injuries that they've had and the sort of inconsistency, and certainly the inconsistency, as you say, 15th not so long ago. Ollie's done a fantastic job to get them to the top of the league, and they've almost crept there. I'm still a little bit worried for United. It could be a false dawn, in the sense, if you just imagine if Fernandes wasn't playing in the last 2 months for Manchester United, they would not be top of the league. He's held that team together almost on his own. Now, I just see other players now coming to the table. They're coming to the party. You likes of Pogba now putting some good performances, and Martial at times, and Rashford. So I think now you might see the best of United coming round the corner, and that's a great sign for United. But I still got this nagging feeling they haven't done it against the top teams yet. And if they do it at Liverpool at the weekend, then they're there to stay. I really do.
That's what I was going to say to you, Miguel, because at the start of the show you're saying City and Liverpool. If United go to Anfield, we know they're great away from home, and win that game, they'll be 6 points clear of Liverpool. Then, is this a statement from Ollie where they do win big games? They had that run, didn't they, when they 4 semi-finals, we know that. But last season, that must-win game at Leicester, that was a huge game to get Champions League. They won that. So he can win big games. If he wins this one, are you going to say they can win the league?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why it's not just a big game or a rare, even bigger Manchester United-Liverpool game in the sense that both are top two. It's also in that it will tell us a lot, particularly about Manchester United. I mean, you mentioned the kind of record against big teams. That's almost the nature of kind of streaky teams, which United have been. I mean, one of the hallmarks of Solskjaer's reign so far has been they go on these winning runs, then they go on these drop-offs, and it all alternates. And like last season, they were very good in big games, but not so good against the mid-table teams. And now they seem they've switched that, where they haven't won a big game yet this season. And of course, this Sunday is the opportunity.
They're not on their own, though, are they? They're not on their own this year. There's so many teams like that. Chelsea have been like that. you know, Tottenham, even the likes of sort of
Liverpool.
Everton, Liverpool, of course. 7-0 at Palace, you think, wow, they're back.
Losing 7-2 at Villa.
And then they they go and draw at home to West Brom and blah blah blah. So it has been so much like that, and this is why I just see Man City as the only team that are capable of being consistent. And if they get Aguero back as well, and Jesus came back in midweek, I just think they are the team as usual.
But City drew home to West Brom.
They did, but at the moment, I think they're putting them teams away now, though. I really feel that they're beating them teams, whether they play really top level. City can play 3 gears down and still win, and that's the difference. I don't think any other team at the moment, Premier League, can go sort of into 3rd gear and win matches, and I think that's why it's been a fascinating year.
Well, let's bring another voice into this conversation now about Liverpool taking on Manchester United this weekend. We've got former Liverpool defender Stephen Warnock joining us. Hi, Stephen. Great to have you with us. What are your best memories from playing in this fixture?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit different because of the atmosphere that was in and around the game, leading up to it. During in the city in the week, walking around the city and feeling that pressure of the fans, but then actually turning up on a game day, and that feeling of driving down the road or coming down the road on the bus, and you've got that roar when you enter Anfield. That was just simply brilliant. And then the atmosphere when you step out for the warm-up, more often than not, the ground was pretty much full because the fans knew what was needed from them before the game, and that's sadly going to be missed this weekend, even though there is so much at stake.
Stephen, I remember your best memories of that game. You used to keep passing to the Liverpool fans, didn't you, from that left-back position?
I played against Ronaldo in that game, Sav. He wouldn't have got anywhere near it. I was delighted.
That was
I came off after about 70 minutes thinking, well, I've kept him quiet for 70. Job done, that'll do me.
When myself and Stephen played together at Blackburn, that was our joke. He used to say to me, just give the ball to two again. I said, you keep the ball on the pitch. But this is going to be a fascinating encounter, isn't it? Liverpool, so good at home, but Manchester United, so good away. Do you think the key could be whoever defends the best? And do you think he might play Henderson and Fabinho at centre-half?
Personally, I hope he doesn't, because I think it takes away from Henderson's game. I think when we see the best of Henderson, it's actually driving from midfield and running beyond the strikers and taking the midfielders of the opposition away. Then we know how tenacious he is in midfield and the tempo that he tries to set within the game. I think, personally, I don't know. Obviously, I've not been a manager, and Glenn's probably in a better position to talk about this. But I just feel if you've got the youngsters in Nat Phillips and Reece Williams, just pick one and give them a run of 10 games and see how they get on. They're going to make mistakes at some point because they're young, they're inexperienced at that level of playing Premier League and trying to chase another championship and back to back at that. So for me, I'd rather see them pick a centre-back and go with it. But I think the big thing about the game is how do Manchester United play this? Do they go after Liverpool and try and sort of go toe-to-toe with them and take them on? Or do they sit deep, as we know Liverpool struggle with at times, and then counter-attack? Because if Manchester United do that with the players that they've got in Martial, in Rashford, in Bruno Fernandes, Luke Shaw flying forward from fullback, I think there's such a danger playing that way, and it's going to be very, very difficult to see how Liverpool deal with Manchester United's attacking threat. Now, we saw it against Spurs, where Son and Kane were obviously high in form, and how would they deal with that? They dealt with it relatively well on the day. But I think United, the way they're playing in form, I think it's going to be very, very tough for Liverpool.
Ben, firstly, what do you think of what Stephen mentioned there about the centre-halves?
Yeah, I think as a manager, you're another key player for me, Stephen. I don't know whether I think he'll start or not, but it's Thiago. Yeah. I think Thiago, we're going to see the best. You know, if he's fit and starts playing, they're a different team. He came on a sub the other day against, I think it was Villa, wasn't it? Or
most passes on the touches of the ball.
And he got man the match. Yeah. I mean, he is a real top player. When it's tight, I think what Stephen's saying, Liverpool, find it hard, maybe teams dropping off. With Thiago in the team, he can put that ball up through the eye of, and he can keep the ball if you're winning the game. He's a nightmare if he comes on from the bench and you're chasing a game, you're 1-0 down, 2-0 down against Liverpool. He'll just keep the ball for fun. But he has got that killer ball as well, and I think he's going to be massive for Liverpool's chances of winning the league again this year.
There is a real small chance that Matip could be fit for this game, and if he is, then that could change the way Jurgen Klopp actually sets up. Miguel, you had a question for Stephen, didn't you?
I mean, it's quite late into the situation, but this is the first Liverpool United game in history without a crowd. And I think this could be maybe one of the matches where we notice it more than any other because of the history. And obviously, Stephen's played more than enough of these games. Do you think that'll be the case, or do you think it will have any influence?
I think it's one of those games where you do. I mean, from a home point of view, you need that crowd. You want them behind you roaring. It's such a key component when you are playing at Anfield, and it's very difficult to go there. I've been there as an away team player as well, and it's very difficult to play in front of them crowds. I think from United's point of view, sometimes it's been a blessing in disguise for them, because it's the old cliche, we always use it: how quickly can you silence the crowd? How quickly can you get them anxious on the edge of the seats? And I think this Manchester United team would actually go to Anfield and enjoy that side of the atmosphere because of the way that they play and their counter-attacking football and the dangers that they cause on the breaks, because you would get that shift in sort of feeling from the Liverpool fans. Every time Rashford picks the ball up, there would be an eerie silence. It was the same when Neymar and Mbappe came to town with Paris Saint-Germain. Every time they picked the ball up, there was that, oh, these are capable of creating something. And those guys are at the top of the game at the moment. And you're thinking, when they pick the ball up at a packed Anfield, there would be that sort of that fear of what they're capable of achieving.
So as a fullback, Stephen, I think Ollie's got a predicament. Does he go with the front four that started against Burnley, Martial, Cavani, Rashford, with Fernandes as a 10, or will he go a bit more safe with the 2 6s, i.e. McTominay and Fred, and put Pogba on that left-hand side and leave either probably Cavani out and put Martial down the middle? As a fullback,
I think Martial's a slight injury doubt as well, isn't he? But if he's fit.
Yeah. Would you rather face the pace of a Martial, Rashford in the fullback position, or Pogba, being a bit more, defensive-minded?
I'd rather face Pogba. I know, and that sounds a bit strange because he's world class and he's got that ability to pin you, roll you, and then pick his passes from wherever he wants to pick them from. You've got to be tight and in his face. But when you are facing a Rashford or a Martial, if fit, then the problem with paces is just that if you're a yard off, if you're just your positioning isn't quite right, it can be so dangerous to you. And plus, the fullbacks at Liverpool don't have that sort of that cover of Virgil van Dijk and the pace. They don't have that pace of Joe Gomez as well in behind, and that's what Liverpool have obviously lacked when they play this high line. It's very difficult to deal with. I think one of the biggest key battles I see, and Glenn alluded to it a little bit before, is the position of Thiago. Who deals with Bruno Fernandes in the team? Does he go and decide that Thiago sits in that holding role and deals with Bruno Fernandes, or does he decide, well, I actually want to play Thiago a little bit higher up the pitch so he can have a little bit more of an influence on passing the ball into the front three, and leaving Jordan Henderson to deal with that position of Bruno Fernandes? There's so many brilliant battles all over the pitch. I actually can't wait for the game to see how it turns out.
No, I agree with Stephen there. I agree that Pogba, if you look at a game starting and Pogba's playing out on that left-hand side, all them little clips we saw there with him through the centre of the pitch, scoring goals, putting lovely passes in, he can't hurt you from the left-hand side. He's not going to get in them positions.
I don't think Ollie will play him as one of the 6s, or will he? Because Fernandes will play as a 10.
No.
So he'll play at left if he plays.
That's the predicament at the moment, getting Fernandes and Pogba in the same team. Wonderful footballers. But getting them in the same team, in the same system, same shape, to have the balance, particularly against the top team like Liverpool. Maybe if they were playing, no disrespect to a mid-table team this weekend, I think you'd have seen Pogba playing again instantly because he played so well. Yeah. But it's about the balance, and I think I'm with Stephen now. I'd love to see, if I'm from Liverpool, I'd love to see Pogba out there rather than being in the centre of the pitch where he can hurt you. And he's not going to go past you for pace. He's not going to go on the outside of you. And Stephen's absolutely right.
So in the big game, because this is the big thing, when Lampard, Scholes, Gerrard for England, Scholes was put on the left-hand side. Why do they say that these players can't play together? So a lot of people say Pogba and Fernandes in the big games can't play as 2 8s, for instance, and a 6 in behind. Why?
Well, they can.
They can, but why don't they? Why do people say
No, because what you said there, Rob, will Ollie go for 2 players square of each other, a Fred and McTominay?
Yeah.
And,
one
and
in
at Chelsea,
Fernandes.
they did it with Kovacic and Jorginho.
Yeah.
And sometimes then play a number 10. And that's how they've been playing, to allow Fernandes.
Yeah.
Now, whilst Pogba wasn't playing so well, that was easy choice for Ollie. But now Pogba's starting to play a bit better. United fans are saying, hang on a minute, we're starting to see him play like we know he can play. And then that causes the manager a slight problem of the balance of the team. I personally, at the moment, looking at United, would play one sitting player. It would be McTominay. You sit in there and do the job that you did. The other week I saw him, he was back defending tremendously well. He can do that job, and he uses the ball well, and let the 2 of them go and play. And that's I think, the balance eventually that will elevate United even to more a better team, I believe.
So if you're playing both of them, you can only have one holding player.
Yeah.
And the danger is you get overwhelmed against a big side. Unless you have a Kante, say.
Yeah, but that depends on how you defend as a group.
Yeah.
If you want to go and press and do all that. But for me, against Liverpool, I could see United dropping off, making it very hard to get beat. Get your distances right. I can tell you now, if you've got 2 creative players and they're willing to work together in a unit, as a system, it's not a problem. Right. You don't need the 2 defensive-minded
They've got
players.
to work hard together.
But you've got to be aware of what you're going to do. You've got to have clarity to when you can't tell a player of their creative ability what to do when they've got the ball. But you can tell them where you've got to be in a team shape defensively. And you work together and you make sure that you get people's heads down and they play backwards and they play across the pitch, and it gives you time to get your shape defensively. That's all that's needed sometimes. So I think there's a fallacy that we've got to have 2 holding players. England are finding that hard at times.
Yeah.
It depends on who you're playing against, of course, but I can see, Ollie, like you said, Sav,
2 6s.
2 6s in there for this one-off game.
All right, well, with all that said, let's get a prediction from Stephen Warnock then before we let you go, Stephen. What do you reckon?
I'm actually going to go for a 2-2 draw. I just think both teams are going to be clinical at either end, but then obviously defensively, I think both teams can be got at.
All right, Stephen, thank you very much. We've heard from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer already, so let's now hear from his opposition manager, Jurgen Klopp.
Winning a football game and winning against United it's enough. It's itself. So there's not necessary that there's a special add-on. So we would play at home again.
Well, it's going to be fascinating to see how everything unfolds at Anfield on Sunday. Let's get a prediction from both of you now then. It's been interesting with Liverpool because since scoring 7 at Crystal Palace, they've only scored 1 goal in their last 3 Premier League games, Glenn. So which way do you see this one going? Will they be on fire?
I think they will. I think they'll raise their game. I think they realise that United are a very good side and can hurt you, but I think they'll be chomping on the bit. The record they've got at Anfield, I know United are good away from home at the moment, but their record at home is sensational. I don't know, in world football, is there anything like
66, 67 unbeaten?
67, 68 games unbeaten. That must give you confidence. Walking out of that tunnel, you've got to have confidence. You get that feeling that we're unbeatable. And, if you mentally your team are thinking that going down a tunnel, you're halfway there. And that's how they were back in the 80s when we used to go to Liverpool. You felt as if they felt we're going to win today. And when you have little runs in other clubs, I had it at Tottenham, where it was a year where you just felt we were going to win. Even if we played poor, we were going to win. I think they'll step up. I think they've got some players here. I do see a Liverpool win, 2-1 maybe to Liverpool, but I think there'll be goals. I think there'll be chances for United to win the game if they take them.
All right. Miguel, what do you think?
I'm going to go 2-1 Liverpool. The last game that felt like this was the Liverpool Spurs, what felt like a big title game, was Liverpool Spurs in December. And Liverpool had drawn with Fulham a few days beforehand, 1-1. We're in similar form. And it's just been a nature, or a characteristic of Klopp's time in charge. They raise it for big games.
Spurs could have won that, though.
I know, but
big chances.
But even then, it was just a fact. I mean, Liverpool, they had that kind of decisiveness about them. And I think their ceiling is higher than United's, and if they can hit anywhere near that, they'll win.
Is that the game when they were the better team?
Robbie, we're going to see your prediction
Yes.
a bit later. So Glenn and Miguel have both gone for Liverpool 2-1 wins at home. So from that huge rivalry in the Premier League to a derby in the West Midlands, it's Wolves against West Brom, which kicks off this Premier League weekend on Saturday lunchtime. Let's hear from both managers now, Sam Allardyce and Nuno Espirito Santo.